I love it.
Welcome to Give a Shift, the podcast you want to be listening to when you want to make positive, radical change in your life. I'm Nancy Leeds-Gribble, one of the co-hosts.
And I'm Alicia Ziegler, your other co-host. And today we have my dear, beautiful, and amazing friend, Mari Dagger, with us.
Welcome!
She is an intimacy coach, and I want to read to you a little bit of her backstory. She works with couples to help them reignite the passion, desire, spark, pleasure, love, trust, and respect in their relationship. She helps them to understand what their love language is, as well as their sex language. Her goal is to help by giving the tools and structure to implement them into your relationship in order to create pleasure and to have satisfying orgasms, and to also bring curiosity and exploration into your sex life. Through her own experience and obstacles, she has understood the fundamental foundation it takes to keep a relationship going strong for many years to come. May I introduce to you, ta-da, Mari.
Woo! Okay.
Hello, darling.
This is a big one. This is a great topic. I'm excited.
This is a big one. We've been waiting and very excited to have you on. So our first question usually for a guest is, how did you ever come to be an intimacy coach? What happened before this and what led you to this in order, what was your big shift, I guess you would say?
That is a big question. I love it. Where do I start though? So for me, it's been a long journey to get here. I've spent so long trying to figure it out for myself in my own life, and going through a divorce after being married for 10 years, becoming a single mom at the age of 26 for 3 young kids. That was crazy for me. And I realized, wait, that's not the life I planned for me. Universe had something different in store for me. And that journey, the divorce, led me to become an intimacy coach.
Were you doing something else prior?
When I was married, I wasn't doing anything at all.
Okay, raising your kids, yeah.
Well, then she was cutting my hair.
And then that's how I met Alicia.
So she was a hairstylist, absolutely.
Yeah, I was doing hair. I started doing hair in 2013. And that also got me on the journey of, wait, I love listening to my clients. I love the conversation, the deep, meaningful conversation I have when they're in my chair. It is a very intimate moment.
Yeah.
To get all their deep, dark secrets.
Like the cape hides us.
Tell me more. And I realized I didn't love the part of doing hair, which was the whole thing about it. I was like, I love listening to their stories. I love the conversations we have. I know Alicia and I had a lot of amazing conversations.
We had 9 years worth.
And I realized how much my marriage was lacking intimacy.
Yeah.
Was lacking vulnerability. And it's crazy because when I say intimacy, people they just go ahead and assume, oh, it's the bedroom. It's having sex with your partner. It's that connection. It's not entirely. Yeah. Intimacy leads to that. But intimacy is vulnerability. Vulnerability.
Oh, I like it.
Intimacy.
Yeah. Opening up to your partner in all ways is what it sounds like. Yeah. Is intimacy.
Exactly. But when we don't even open up to ourselves, we can't open up to other people. And I was a shell. I had created a brick wall all around me, 360 degrees, wouldn't open up, wouldn't let anybody in. And there was no connection. I wasn't creating connection. I wasn't creating a bond. And I had to start diving within myself to find it.
Yes. Yes. You have to go inward, right?
Yeah.
First, in order to then go outward to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautifully said, Nancy, because intimacy, the first two letters are in.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
You like gin.
So did you start, so you were doing one thing, your life turned upside down, divorced, 3 kids, realized you loved listening to people. Was it a straight path to being an intimacy coach, or were there other things that you did on that path and then you were like, I've landed, like this is my sweet spot? Or you just went straight there and knew
No,
it?
it was one layer after another. I had to peel one layer after another. Every layer I peeled with every time I healed something about myself, it got me closer to it.
Yeah.
So the more you discovered about yourself was the more you realized you wanted to be an intimacy coach. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, really, it does. It's all self-work,
Yeah.
like introspective and self-work. And I think that's like I took Mari's amazing. She has an incredible masterclass, and I've known her, like I said, for I think it's almost been 9, 10 years. And I took the masterclass, and I think my jaw hit the floor on like the first slide. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, can I get a megaphone and get like all the people up in the room? We need to like Tony Robbins style this information. And it wasn't anything so much that like I'm a really huge, as you both know, deep, like I have probably 87 million self-help books. Like I am the first person that's like, I just want to be curious about this and I want to be curious about that. But wouldn't you say like most people would probably go to you because something's wrong, as opposed to being curious about to like, how am I ticking? Why am I feeling this? Or what's not working for me to have that connection with somebody? Or have I been affected by someone in a relationship that I did shut down? Because I've been in your shoes where I kind of walked around numb, no matter what I was doing. And until I had somebody point it out to me, I was like, oh, the mirror. Okay. Now I have a starting point. And I realized during your masterclass that all these years later, I was like, oh dear, I have another book to read that she recommended. But for you, like, what do you think that most people what's the roadblock for most? Like if someone was going to come to you, what's the like typical, like for our audience, like what's the typical things that people are struggling with? Is it the lack of sex in the bedroom? Is it I can't get my partner to listen to me, or they don't know my needs or my wants, or I'm not being heard, seen? Like what do you find is the most predominant, I guess, issue, if you will, in relationships or with the people that you coach?
The strain of lack of communication that it puts on not having sex for months on end, and they come in thinking that's where the problem is the bedroom.
Yeah.
I was like, great, we're going to reel you back a little tiny bit, or I am going to reel you back a tiny bit. It doesn't start in the bedroom. It trickles into the bedroom. So you have to understand, how are you showing up every day, every morning, every evening, every night with your partner?
Mm-hmm.
How are you communicating? How are you listening? How are you uncommunicating? How are you listening? How are you unlistening?
Right.
And if you're coming home stressed from work, are you taking it out on your partner? But are you actually telling your partner, I'm sorry, that had nothing to do with you. I had a long day. Well, if you don't say that, your partner is going to be like, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to start building that resentment. We're going to start building those blocks that will lead us to not even having any life in the bedroom with each other. But it starts outside, because when you first meet your partner, you don't go straight to the bedroom. You're like, hey, great, I like you. Let's go. You go out to dates, you have drinks, you have dinner, you talk, you learn about each other. It's the same thing throughout the relationship. I tell people, I'm like, you wake up, you know, you have to drink water, you have to eat food to keep and stay alive. Your relationship is the same way. You have to show up. You have to put an effort, make an effort, no matter how long you've been together, 8 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 60 years. It doesn't matter. You still need to show up and put in the effort to keep it alive the same way you need to eat food and drink water to stay alive. Now, again, we go back to how healthy are you eating to keep your body strong and going for a long period of time? Are you eating junk or are you eating healthy? Same relationship. Are you communicating in a healthy way or are you communicating in a negative way?
Right.
And
Go ahead.
No,
Not communicating is also not communicating in an unhealthy way. Like we all know actions can speak volumes. And I mean, I'm specifically thinking of a couple I know, and the husband comes home. He like, now I want my me time. You're to do everything else, and kind of ignores her, and then wants to go have sex. And she's like, you've ignored me for 5 days straight. And, and there's no foreplay at all. And would you say like a lot of people, when they've been together for a while, like they just start taking each other for granted. Like that's kind of what happens. And each person gets into their day-to-day thing. And even being intimate on any level becomes a to-do. And it's
right. It sounds like that's so much resentment.
Yes.
Like I expect you to know this, but you haven't talked about it, but yet I'm pissed off, but yet you want to get laid and my brain hasn't been stimulated. And now you're mad at me because whoever in the relationship, A provides, but B needs to do the, I mean, it seems like sounding like that just put like, I almost had a mini heart attack right there. But I was like, calm. But truly it kind of, like Nancy was saying, it seems like it's just an endless clash. So you're basically saying that not that the communication styles, or I mean, what's the quote unquote fix or assist with that? Is it speaking to each other?
I wish it was that easy.
Right there, you go. Just talk.
I want to throw a few coins in the wishing. Or is it the self? She's gonna be like, and it's all about your self-work. No,
yeah,
your expectations of the other person. No.
Yeah. So, what was the question?
Well, I was saying, she was saying is, people have the expectation of the bedroom.
Yeah.
But we were saying like there's so much resentment possibly or dissatisfaction built up to that what is the actual like fix
process? Yeah.
To kind of get back to maybe, I guess, where a couple was before, or how do they know they can't fix it? I don't know.
It's not even where the couple was, but even right now, you were telling me this before I asked you what was the question. You were talking to me, but I wasn't listening. So it doesn't matter how many the couple can communicate. If both parties aren't listening when the other one's communicating, it defeats the purpose of communicating.
Yeah, it's just wasted breath.
Exactly.
Yeah, which funnels into more exhaustion, more this is too much work. Everything is work with that person. That's how it starts to feel, I would imagine.
Yep. It does start to feel like a lot of work. And then that's where they start to fall off the train. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Who wants to do more work? I already have to go to work and pay bills and make dinner and all that.
Right.
About finding what works for them, because each person is different.
Yeah.
What works for me may not work for Alicia in a relationship. What works for Alicia won't work for Nancy. Right. It just, you have to find the style of communication that works for the couple. Yeah. And also, the one thing we don't like to address is baggage. We bring it into every relationship, whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not. For the last almost 11 years for me next month that I've been separated and divorced, I've not just been like, okay, I'm just going to date and I'm fine and I'm great. No, I've been doing Alicia knows, deep dive work on how can I heal my past traumas from my marriage so I don't bring it back into my new relationship.
Yeah.
And great, you're in a relationship, that's fine. What is it that you're bringing into this relationship that's putting a strain on it? What are you not communicating? What is it so deep in your subconscious that you don't even want to acknowledge it? Because that is also putting a strain on it, on your relationship, whether we like it or don't. Most of the time we don't like it.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
Most of the time.
Marty's been very a preview to situation that I have been in. And I found myself touching base with her when I said, it's the withholding. It's the withholding of information that you have that I'm not privy to, that I keep asking about, that you don't want to share, that's creating a huge divide and building layer after layer after layer of pushback, to which I just shut down and walked away. I said, I can no longer, after all these years, keep asking to penetrate that wall if you're not willing to even remove a brick. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like it is a lot. It takes a willingness to really look at yourself, but to also, I think, and what would you say to people changing in a relationship, or if they know they want to be in that, or they're just craving something different from maybe like they're growing and their partner's not, or
that will be different case to case. We all change. I'm changing every day. I'll be a different person tomorrow than I am today, or that I was yesterday. It's also understanding that I'm going to change and not having someone have this idea of, but why? Why are you changing? I liked you the way you were. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And great, okay, I'm going to change regardless. If you don't want to keep up and change, we need to figure it out. Is this peace? Hi, have a great life.
For those of you that can't see, I just might have thrown out a piece out, but
Alicia's like, goodbye.
Onward and upward. No, I'm just kidding.
Out you go. There's the door. I will gladly open it.
I will kick it open. No, but please keep going. Because I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, to be honest with you. I mean, Nancy's, newly remarried, so that's exciting. But I think for those of us that are, have been in something where you're like, if we're not growing together, it feels like we're dying together. And if only one person is growing, then the other person feels like a vine that's just suffocating you, and you can't get to the sun, blossom and bloom and do the whole thing. And so I was curious, do you find like couples come to you more, or like the single person that's like just so curious about what they can do to find their person, so to speak?
The only way to find your person is to find you. You have to find who you are. You have to figure out who you are, what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about how I want my partner to come into my life and show up in this relationship. How do I want to show up? So taking the focus of how do I pull it in? How do I create that? And focus it on yourself. How do I create the person I want to be in a relationship if you're not? How do I become the best version of myself in a relationship? How do I even want to show up in this relationship? Understanding how authentic you are matters. And you have to be true to yourself. You have to be vulnerable with yourself first. And that's how that wall that I was talking about, how I built that wall around me, that's how I started breaking those bricks. I would break a little brick, create a little window. That showed me a little bit about myself, and it allowed a lot of people in my life to know who I am. So you keep breaking. That's the best thing you could do. If you're not in a relationship, you keep breaking brick after brick. And your partner, when your partner comes in, a really healthy relationship is, instead of them helping you to build more blocks, they break them down with you on your own speed, your own time, vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think in all areas of personal development, it starts with doing the work on yourself first, and in all areas, and in this area too. I work with a lot of women in midlife and older. So I work with a lot of women in the ages where, I mean, they might have young kids, but when kids are starting to go away, the nest is becoming empty, right? And now they're looking at their partner like, who are you? And the other was like, who are you? And it's a real thing. We talk about it in our coaching, and the women, I work primarily, with women mostly, and they are afraid sometimes. I don't want to say to let their freak flag fly, but to let it out. Like maybe they haven't been intimate or sexy with their husband or partner in a very long time because they've been raising the kids, they've been doing the things, and now they're working out, they're getting healthy,
They're feeling
sexy for themselves, and they're nervous. They legit are nervous. Do you encounter that? Is that something that you encounter?
I do.
Yeah.
Because they forget to focus on them and their partner as they're raising the kids. Their whole focus is their kids now.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you help her bring that back? Like, it's almost like you have to go on a date again, right? With your husband.
Yeah, it's great. Now you're empty nesters. Now you're going to date again. You're going to meet the new you. You're going to meet him. You're going to start doing what you first did when you first met for the first time.
Yeah.
Do it now. And yes, being nervous, that's a part of it. That's a good thing. You want
to flip it instead of like an anxiety nervous of like, oh my God, why am I nervous around my own husband? Like try to flip that into the first date nerves. Like I'm going to go and pretend I don't know all the things that he does and meet who's showing up here today, and hopefully he shows up, and so but it's a real thing, the intimacy and the relationships, and Alicia works with women and men. She works with, and so she's probably encountered this too, like sometimes I'll get asked the question. This is a big thing for women in weight loss who are very overweight, is what if I lose the weight, my husband, usually
Yes.
like they gain the weight together a lot of times. It's not, you do see like pairings that don't blend like that, but typically they do. One loses a lot of weight, gets healthy, and then no longer wants to be with that person. And so I'll get asked that question, they're like, is that going to happen? And I'm like, it could, like for real, but you don't stop yourself from being your best version because you're worried about that. Like deal with that when you get to it. Is that good advice?
She's like, what are you talking about? I'm kidding.
That was perfect. I would say the same thing. I would tell them, if you're going to not lose that weight because you're afraid of losing your partner, however, if you stop yourself from losing that weight, you're going to lose yourself.
Yes, that's what I think. Yeah. Yeah. All right, good. And then I'll send them to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and there's obviously in all relationships, there's a natural ebb and flow. Like, listen, crunch time comes, people get busy, people have massive things that happen in their life, kids, all the things. So there's an ebb and flow. What would you say to someone like, you might be at the tipping point that you should come and talk to me, or something like this is, the tipping point? I don't know really else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The breaking point.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is no longer the ebb and flow and you're going to go right back into it. Now you're in this other arena.
Yeah. It can get a little tricky because at that point, either they just want to give up and walk away.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to keep them to understand to fight for it. But it's how willing are you willing to fight for it? Are you ready to give up and walk away now? Or do you want to try until your last breath and you did your best?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't answer that question for them. They have to answer it. They need to know how willing are they? Are they in it 50%, 60, 90, 95, or 100? And that will matter in how they show up and how they put in the effort to keep it going.
Yeah.
Right. No different than our weight loss clients, right? We know how diehard you are to get healthy versus you're taking this on like a hobby.
Yeah.
And you might not get the result that you're looking for in the time frame in which you're seeking it. So yeah, I always the fear is a thing. But as of late, I will say that there is an extraordinary amount of, once you have given it your all and you feel like that's okay, I've done everything that I can, I'm always going to love this person for who they are, but we've just grown apart, that there's a huge salvation in just saying, I'm taking care of me now. And I'm going to open the doors to whoever comes and might reflect that and be on the same path, but that I'm not tied to this just because I have a desire to change, and it's okay. And I think there's that giving yourself permission is probably such a huge thing, right? Like, it's okay to maybe not be where you thought you were. Look at you. I mean, you wouldn't have hung out there for another 11 years.
No.
Right?
Like, that is a no.
The permission to say you're not a failure. It just didn't work. Like, some people don't go together. So on that note, because I loved this in your masterclass, how do people even discover their love language or their sex language, which PS was amazing and I knew nothing about and was like on the edge of my seat. But for our listeners, like, how would you may think like, I think this is my love language, but it's not. Or I don't even know if you want to explain the sex languages, but because I really think that parlays into the kind of person that you're growing or you're trying. You might be like, this is my love language. How do I tell my partner?
Trial and error. You have to, when you know yourself, you'll know what your love language is. You'll start to pick up on cues of what makes you happy or what makes you light up. Is it when somebody buys you a gift? Is it when somebody gives you a compliment? Is it when you spend quality time with someone? Does that make you happy? Listening to the cues of your body and how you feel happy and joy will help you to identify what your love language is. When you know it, you go and you explain it to your partner. There's absolutely nothing wrong to tell your partner, hey, my top two are, for example, mine are quality time and acts of service. If you give me a compliment and be like, okay, yeah, nice, thanks, won't do anything for me.
She's like, go wash my car. Put some gas in it, baby.
Exactly.
So I can take that 5 minutes to take a bath.
Exactly. So if he'd come and be like, hey, I did wash your car and I put gas in it, I love you to the moon and back. You're absolutely amazing. You saved me 10 minutes.
Right.
And
Things
usually
like
when you're running late.
Which is all the time.
Sorry, I had to say it.
So then you're saying that you're having the same physical cues for sex, your sex language.
Exactly. And the sex language, I'm going to list out the 5. They're kinky, sexual, energetic, sensual, and a shapeshifter. A shapeshifter is somebody who will shift throughout all the 4 languages.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, they're Nancy's.
For those of you just listening, we've got a lean in from Nancy. I told you this would be good. Please continue. That was me in the master class. I was like,
yeah, they all get shocked and they're like, oh, that's why my partner hasn't been feeling aroused or hasn't been in the mood. The second they know these, they're like, it's a light bulb that goes off in their head. Exactly. Yes, that's why. It's the same way as the love languages. If I'm going to get a compliment versus acts of service, yeah, you're not going to see the difference.
Yeah.
But I'm having my sex language being addressed to me. Yes, you're going to see it different. You're going to get a response out of me.
Yeah.
And for example, versus having your partner come to you in a kinky way and you're not kinky at all. What is that going to do? It's going to repel you. It's going to
shut you
you're
down.
not going to be aroused. You're going to be shut down.
Yeah.
Versus if your partner shows up in a very sensual way where you come home to a really beautiful romantic dinner with candlelights, or even just spending a romantic night outside under the stars, or however that may look like to you, your partner is going to go home and be ready for the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Which in most relationships, it's like dishes are done. Let's.
Yeah, I got 10 minutes.
Kids are in the, whatever for a little bit. And that's part of like just raising families and stuff. That stuff happens when you just have to be on quickie alert most of the time.
Well, that's a really good question. Maybe a lot of people listening have that where they think, I am at that point in my relationship where we're having a little bit of a disconnect. We're kind of struggling, but we do have the kids, but everything feels chaotic. Like, what are little things maybe that people can do to kind of have that reigniting? Or do you suggest scheduling that, like, this 10 minutes is for us, babe? Or like, I don't know what would you suggest to your clients? Because I think a lot of people listening, that is the thing, right? Like, they're so burdened by life happening that they're like, can't even the thought of, they want to connect with their partner, but it's like, how do I even do it?
It's easy. It's okay. I don't want to say it's easy. It's achievable.
Yeah.
It's achievable. We're always on our phones. We're always texting someone. We're always looking at our emails. Send a text to your partner. Tell them how much you miss them. Tell them what they did the other day brought light to your face and brought joy to your heart. Explain that to them.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them you're still paying attention without telling them I'm paying attention.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Very nice.
So those little
love note or something like, yeah.
Love note. Your partner's going to work? Great. Pack a little in there somewhere in his jacket, his pants, her purse, anywhere. Right. Fit in those little love notes. The other ones I really like are, you're going out on a walk, you see a flower, pick a flower and bring it in. Simple. You know your partner's tired. Going out of your way and doing the dishes gave you 10 minutes with each other when the kids have a mellow time. I'm sure they're going to be mellow at some point of the day. You just gave yourself those 10 minutes by doing those dishes, and your wife or your husband is after the kids and taking care of the kids. And then when you have those 10 minutes, give each other a hug, cuddle, and then just check in with each other. How was your day? How are you doing? Simple things like that. I'm not saying, and if you need to schedule it on your calendar, please do. By all means, schedule it on your calendar.
Yeah.
Get a babysitter, however it needs to happen. and make it happen. But give yourself time, being like, okay, in 3 weeks, we're going on a date. We have 3 weeks to plan for it.
Cool.
Yeah. 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 Those are all great. What about this one? Because I hear this one is the woman is like, okay, I'm going to hold their hand more. I'm going to snuggle with them. But, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of blanketing people into category, into roles. So it could be anybody really, but I'm just using male, female, for example. And the guy is like, she held my hand, we're having sex. Like, she's like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know, like, hey, I'm just going to hold your hand and snuggle first. And he's like, I'm going in. She gave me the opening. Like,
oh, shit, that's classic.
Right. It's true. Right. Like, because they haven't talked about it maybe or something, right? Like everything's like, he's just waiting, or she or whoever is waiting for the opening. And so then the woman or whoever pulls back because they're like, Jesus, every time I go to hold their hand or I sit on the sofa, it's like it turns into this session. And I just really want to
So true.
Hold hands. No,
yeah. Don't hold hands. Next.
I know, but right, but that's a thing, I think, and it starts to lead to the disconnect. Because she's like, or whoever is like, all right, you know, I'm stopping being affectionate because every time I go to be affectionate, it's like, oh my God, it's like instantly like arousal. Let's go, game on. And so I would imagine that's just communicating like, hey, I'm just going to hold your hand. I don't know.
Okay. No, I think that's great. Because I think, let's do this. I will put myself out there. Everybody knows that for 4 years, I was in a relationship where communication was absolutely my most unmet need. And it built resentment, sadness, resistance. And I would give, and then I would get a tiny crumb. And then I was just kind of this, I was almost on the verge of what I felt was a breakthrough. So I stayed in it until I realized it was a pattern. And I do think that there maybe are some people that just, they don't communicate with you or they don't break down that way. But like Nancy was saying, there is such like this innate firework to happen if you can just communicate. So what would you say to people who have two totally different communication styles? Is it best to come to someone like you where they feel safe and heard and seen equally? Mm-hmm. Or what can they do to even, heck, see if they want to go together? Because that's a thing too, but to even communicate.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do see them apart. It helps because it becomes easier for them to open up. Mm-hmm. The other thing, I love what you just both said. The only one connection I will have with both is expectations.
Oh, yes.
Darn. That's where his wife is coming in just to hold his hand, to cuddle, whatever it is. It's him already going to that expectation of what I'm going to receive out of it. So going into it without any expectation is the key. No judgment and no expectation and no criticism on both stories.
I love it, right? No expectations, and no judgment.
No, I mean, because I'll say this, if I was in therapy, this is what I would say. I would say all well and good, except I was never communicated to at all. So it wasn't an expectation. It's called a mutual respect, of which if I'm not getting answers to questions, the clock is ticking and now time is gone. And if time is the most precious commodity on earth, how am I going to get that back if I'm hanging in and you're not, like, I can't break down the wall?
That's the thing. You're hoping and you're expecting this person's going to break down the wall, when in their mind, they may not be ready to break down that wall.
Right. That's all I wanted you to say so people could hear. Because it's the truth. It really exists. And that's why I'm saying, like Nancy was saying, for the midlife people, if they go into this, if I change and he goes, then they're not ready to meet you where you're at. Your new you, right? I mean, it's kind of a big thing.
It is a big thing because a lot of people stay stagnant in a relationship because if they're going to grow, they're afraid of losing that person or losing that relationship. So they're in their mind, I'm better off being stagnant in this relationship. I was for almost 10 years in my marriage. I'm like, okay, I can't change. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be this way, the way he married me, the way he wanted me to be. For 10 years, I was stagnant. I didn't allow myself to grow. However, that caused inner resentment, inner sadness, inner pain, causes more struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. I listening, I'm thinking too, that when you were saying stagnant, and I'm thinking about, okay, now the person is putting walls around themselves, like in the intimacy, and somewhere in there is, if I change, if I work on myself, if I open up, rejection, right? That's got to be, I would imagine, something that you work with your clients through also. Is that like maybe they have those baggage, like you were saying from earlier, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
And there is that fear of, and sometimes the word fear, people are like, I'm not afraid of anything. So sometimes I don't always like to use that word fear, but they have that thought of, I'm going to get rejected, and I'm not in the mood to get rejected. So I'm just going to stay stagnant, stay in my wall. Do people come to you and like, do you hear that?
I do. I hear it a lot, unfortunately. And I hear a lot of judgment about themselves if they change, even if they want to pursue something else, they start to judge themselves.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but the one person, the biggest critic is ourselves.
Always.
We judge ourselves the most, and it's unfortunate. And then that again starts to, and it's the being uncomfortable with change. It's the whole change thing.
Yeah.
Whole factor plays a role of how that person starts to change their life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big topic.
I told you it's huge, right? I was like, okay, fine. I'm on my side of the street.
Yeah. Well, relationships with self, with others, right? They go into the whole health category. Part of Alicia and I's training, that's like part of it. Like, you can eat all the organic broccoli in the world. You can work out. But if your relationships with self and with those that are in your intimate environment and even your social environment, if those are off, you don't have whole health. And there's other factors, but that's like one of the big ones in there. So I love it. And I would be, I know it's such a big topic. I know Alicia mentioned the masterclass. Is that something you do often, or?
I do it once a month. I do change topics.
Yeah.
Keep it interesting, to keep it more fun, and just to give a variety. Everyone needs a little bit of something different.
Everybody needs a little spice.
Yes.
And I know you also do retreats.
So I do retreats. I don't host them yet. I do get invited to be guest speakers on retreats, on different events and platforms. So yes, I do.
And you have one coming up for anybody that's in Paris, California?
That one's actually closed up. It's
okay.
Done. Just for the sake of certain things that I can't really speak about right now in regards to that one, because it has not happened yet. But that one's very exciting. As soon as I am back, and I will be posting about it and talking about it. And it's a really, really good one. But I will definitely share more later on in the weeks to come.
Fun. And then how can people find you or connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram, IG, and
which is fantastic, by the way. And she does wonderful lives. That's her plug.
Try my best. Not very tech savvy, but I try my best.
We feel that. It's a different ball game.
And then are you also on Facebook for those people that don't have Instagram, or basically just Insta?
Facebook, Instagram. They can email me. It's on my website that is about to get hauled up and changed up for a lot of people. A lot of new things to come for that one. So yeah, there's my website on IG. There's links on there for everybody that wants different things. And then Facebook, I'm definitely on there.
Okay, so if you had to throw out, cast a net of anything that you wanted people to walk away with in their heart regarding intimacy and relationships, what would it be?
I'm going to take the biggest gift that it was for me in my own life. And that was being honest with myself, being present with myself, whether with every single flaw about me, I learned how to love that. So I'm perfectly imperfect, and so are we all are. And embrace that. Be honest with that. It's beautiful. You will find unconditional love.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I love it. This, I'm sure we could talk for hours.
Well, we can have her back.
Yeah.
After I watch the next masterclass.
Yes. And definitely send the links to Alicia so we can make sure we post them in our show notes, because I know people are going to want to follow you and get tips and all the great things. It's a much, much needed service that you provide.
And you're able to do it not just in person, correct? If you needed to Zoom and what have you. Okay, cool. Yes.
All right. You want to take us out?
Me?
Yes.
I don't know. What have we ever done? I always just stare at you.
All right.
Everybody needs to go get some intimate communication going.
All right. We want to thank everybody for listening to Give a Shift. And please remember to like, comment,
subscribe.
Follow, and subscribe. We are excited to bring more people your way that are going to help you shift in the ways that is going to make your life happier and healthier. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.